everyone, and welcome back to Mariana Math Books. My name is Mariana, and today I am here with a very exciting video. It is a video about my favorite opening lines, epigraphs, and dedications of 2024. As many of us here in BookTube, I really love watching the videos of favorite things that come out at the end of each year or at the beginning of each year. Favorite books, favorite book covers, favorite fiction books, favorite non-fiction books, favorite graphic novels, favorite authors, favorite characters, whatever list of favorites I really love to watch. Mostly the lists that are filmed are of favorite books, whether that be in general or in different genres. I really enjoy people who do lists of different things like covers, characters, etc. One of my favorite things in books that I think is very common is reading the opening line. Though I will say that for me, I think the closing line sticks more in my mind than the opening line. I love books with awesome closing lines, but I feel like that's a difficult video to make, because if you make a video with your favorite final line of a book, that is a bit spoilery. Maybe one day I'll think of a way to make a video like that. But yeah, opening lines. I really love opening lines or opening paragraphs. One of the ways in which I decide which books are going on my want to read list is based on that opening paragraph. I don't care if the plot of a book sounds amazing. I first have to read the first paragraph, unless it's an author I already know that I love, in which case I trust the author already. But two other elements in books that I love, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about them, are dedications and epigraphs. I also love author's notes and footnotes and, all those good nerdy stuff, but especially my top favorite bookish element that is not the book in itself are dedications and epigraphs. So I thought it would be cool to make a video with my favorite opening lines or opening paragraphs, dedications and epigraphs. Why do I love dedications and epigraphs so much? It's not necessarily that I love the quote in itself, it's what that quote or what that dedication tells me about the book or tells me about the author. I feel like with a strong dedication or epigraph, I can very quickly feel a sense of kinship with an author, whether that is intellectual or emotional. I really love books that make me feel a sense of kinship with the author, not only the story in itself. It's just a small quote, it's just a small dedication, and that combined with the synopsis or what you know of the book, that will give me a super strong sense of what the project of the book is. Mara at Books Like Wow, she talks a lot about the project of a book, and I feel like when you read a dedication and an epigraph, it tells you so much about the project of a book, about the vibes, about the thoughts, about so many things. And then also I can't deny that epigraphs are very nerdy, and I love them because when I read a book that has an epigraph, just immediately you know that the author is a bit nerdy, and I love when that happens. And depending on the epigraph that they choose, you can know the stuff that they like to read, the stuff that interests them, or the theme of the book. Epigraphs tell you so much, and dedications as well. Obviously, they are not deal breakers for me. It's not like I will read a dedication and if I don't love it, then I won't love the book or I won't read the book, obviously. But I super appreciate when it has a great dedication or a great epigraph. And also, and this is something that I've told my friend Elle, I feel like when I read a book with an awesome dedication and an awesome epigraph, more often than not, I will end up either loving the book or loving the author. Obviously, it's not like 100% of the time, but more often than not, that is the case. That is why I love them so much, and that is why I wanted to share them with you. How will I structure this video? So I will first share with you the opening lines, then the dedications, then the epigraphs, so you can see the timestamps and you can either watch the whole video, which I recommend, or you can skip to the thing that interests you. And when I share the all of the quotes and especially the dedications and the epigraphs, I will share with you why they were favorites and why that specific epigraph or dedication was one of my favorites. Because when it comes to opening lines, a lot of times it does only have to do with the beauty of the line or of the prose or of the text itself, but with epigraphs especially, and dedications too, it's not necessarily that I love the quote as in an opening line where you like the prose. It's not necessarily that I think, oh wow, I really love that quote that the author chose. It's more what the quote tells me about the book. So I want to explain you why I chose each quote. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the opening lines. And I'm going to do the caveat that it's opening lines slash paragraphs, so I don't have a rhyme or reason as to why I choose either a quote or a paragraph. I'll just choose accordingly. And then also sometimes you have prologues and prefaces and stuff like that. So I that is also no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I choose a quote from a prologue or a preface, and sometimes I choose a quote from the first chapter, and that's like no rhyme or reason, just because. I think I have like 5 opening lines slash paragraphs maybe, and then like 3 dedications to 3 epigraphs, something like that. There aren't many quotes. So without further ado, let's move on to the opening lines slash paragraphs. I am pleased to report that from the opening lines, a big percentage of this is fantasy. I really love that because I feel like fantasy and genre fiction is overlooked in how beautiful the writing can be. I personally love fantasy with beautiful writing, and so I'm very happy that I can share it with you. So, the first I'm going to tell you about is from A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Now, for this one, this is a book about a dragon naturalist, which just in itself, I'm intrigued just based on that, you know. Then you look at the cover and double intrigued. The cover is so beautiful. But then you learn that this is structured as a memoir. So the main character is a dragon naturalist, and this series consists, I think, of 5 books, and those books are her memoirs. So it's as if she has published her memoirs, and that is what you are reading. With the opening line, you are immediately put into what that world is, and it reaffirms. So this is a case where the plot was already interesting, the concept of the book, everything was already interesting, and then the first line kind of like solidifies that and confirms that and just tells you straight away what this is. So the opening line is: "Not a day goes by that the post does not bring me at least one letter from a young person, or sometimes one not so young, who wishes to follow in my footsteps and become a dragon naturalist." The opening quote in itself I love, but I'm going to read you the full paragraph because it really sets you in the mood for the book. "Nowadays, of course, the field is quite respectable, with university courses and intellectual societies putting out fat volumes titled 'Proceedings of some meeting or other.' Those interested in respectable things, however, attend my lectures. The ones who write to me invariably want to hear about my adventures, my escape from captivity in the swamps of Moulin, or my role in the great battle of Kionga, or, most frequently, my flight to the inhospitable heights of the Mitihaima peaks, the only place on earth where the secrets of dragonkind could be unlocked." So, if you're a fantasy lover and you're a nerdy fantasy lover, this opening paragraph is fantastic. Just the idea of having lectures, fat tomes published about dragons, and you get the sense that this is a very scholarly life, but also filled with adventures because she does field research. Fantastic opening paragraph, fantastic opening line, and a fantastic author. If you are interested. So that is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Oh, also, the audiobook is narrated by Kate Redding, and she's fantastic with her posh British accent as like an old lady, old Victorian lady type of thing. Fantastic. If you're interested in the book, I highly recommend the audiobook. The next one is a first line that I love from an author that I love, from a book that is one of my favorites. But this is one case where the single opening line made me want to read the book. And that is from The Curse of Chalion by Lois McMaster Bujold. And the opening line is: "Gabriel heard the mounted horsemen on the road before he saw them." And again, the opening line in itself hooked me, and I'm going to explain why, but I'm going to read you the full first paragraph. "He glanced over his shoulder. The well-worn track behind him curled up around a rolling rise, what passed for a hill on these high windy plains, before dipping again into the late winter muck of Baosia's bony soil. At his feet a little rill, too small and intermittent to rate a culvert or a bridge, trickled greenly across the track from the sheep-cropped pastures above. The thump of hoofs, jangle of harness, click of bells, creak of gear, and careless echo of voices came on at too quick a rhythm to be some careful farmer with a team or parsimonious packmen driving their mules. The reason why I love the opening sentence in itself is because, as someone who reads a lot of fantasy and a lot of medieval fiction and medieval fantasy, just the idea of someone walking on a road, hearing hoof, hoof steps, yeah, the hoofs of the horses, hearing horses approach, just that in itself tells you a lot. If you are a reader of the genre, you know that horsemen approaching always means something. Something is happening, something is going on. Obviously, at this moment, when you first open the sentence, the book with that sentence, you don't know who Casariel is, you don't know what's the situation, but you know that he is on a road and he hears horses coming. And that immediately engages you to hear, okay, what's going on, who is this man, why are horses coming. And then the paragraph I wanted to read you because it is very beautiful in terms of description, but especially because of the sounds. I really love when an author can put you in a place and can really make you see a scene by the sounds. So Casariel by the road, hearing the sounds of the hooves, of the hardness, of the clinks. Again, as someone who reads a lot of fantasy and who watches a lot of period shows in that time period, you know exactly the sound, you know the feeling of the horses approaching and the harnesses clicking, and so you are immediately put into that setting. And if you are like me, who loves that type of setting, then this opening paragraph immediately puts you in this place and setting that you are already familiar with and that you already love, and you are eager to know who is Casariel and why are horsemen coming. And I'm not going to keep reading, but the following paragraph just completely solidifies your engagement in the story, because you learn right away what the general situation of Casariel is, and what's his position in relation to the horsemen, and it immediately engages you. The next one I'm going to mention, I have to mention because it's iconic. If you Google famous opening lines, best opening lines in literature, that sort of thing, it shows up in a lot of lists. And as a Latin American who reads, I feel like it would be sacrilege not to put this opening line in this video when I read this book this year, or rather last year. This is the video for favorite of 2024. And that is, of course, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez. And I'm not going to expand a lot on this. This is just iconic. If you are Latin American and you are a reader, you most likely either know this line by heart or know someone who knows it by heart. And that is, many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendía was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. I could continue reading because the whole paragraph is beautiful, but I'm not, because I need to move this along or I'm going to be here forever. And also, the only thing I'm going to say is it's so much more beautiful in Spanish. But there's nothing we can do about it. That's just the way it is, and I'm sure that's the same for literature from all over the place where it gets translated, and it's much more beautiful in its original language, and there's nothing we can do but enjoy it translated to our own languages. So, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez. This next one is the nerdiest, most hilarious, laugh out loud funny quote, opening line, and opening paragraph. It's kind of like the opening line slash paragraphs because of the way it's written. You'll see what I mean. And this one is important that I have the text on screen because of the way it is written. And it's just medieval historical fiction with satire. You can watch my favorites list, and I talk about that book here. In that video. So it is Baudolino by Umberto Eco. I'm just going to read you the quote, the opening sentences, and you'll see why it's my favorite. It's nerdy and it's laugh out loud funny in a nerdy way. Also, the narrator of the audiobook is so good in this, and I'm going to butcher these opening lines, but you can see the text on screen. So, the title of the chapter is also important for this one because it complements what you are reading and you need the context. So, the title is Baudolino Tries His Hand at Writing. That's the title of the chapter. And so the opening lines are all in italics, and they are Ratisbon anno domini mense decembri Chronicle of Baudolino of the family of Aulario. I, Baudolino, son of Galiaudo, of the Aulari, with a head that looks like a lion. Hallelujah, gratias to the Almighty, may He forgive me. Ego aveo facto, the greatest stealing of my life. I mean, from the cabinet of Bishop Otto I have stolen many pages that may belong to the imperial chancellor, and I have scraped clean almost all of them, excepting where the writing would not come off, and now I have much meat to write down that I want, which is my own story, even if I don't know to write Latin. I can't with this book, it's so funny. It's just nerdy, laugh out loud funny. I do think it's the funniest opening paragraph I've read, and that's why I love it so much. And the mixture of the Latin with the English and the scraping, and this young boy telling you, oh yeah, I stole this paper, and oops, like I scraped everything that was written there and I'm trying to write. It's just very funny, and immediately you love Baudolino, immediately you fall in love with Baudolino. So yeah, moving on to the next one. And the next one I chose because of a very specific thing. So I wanted to show variety in this, and I wanted to show that my favorite opening line doesn't necessarily have to mean beautiful prose in terms of what we consider literary or whatever. It doesn't have to be like Nobel Prize winning. It has to be a great opening line in terms of the book, in terms of the type of book, in terms of the genre, and the function of an opening line is to engage you. So, opening line that does its work, that engages you, that from an author who knows what they are doing, knows their craft in whatever genre they write in, whether that be highbrow literary fiction or just commercial fiction that doesn't have any purpose beyond entertaining. Whatever it is, the author has to know their craft. And the next one is an author who knows their craft really well, knows their genre really well, and knows their audience really well. And it is also one of those, like in the course of Chalion, it's not fantasy, but in the sense that if you are a reader of this genre and you have read enough books that by one quote you can immediately grasp all the tropes, all the story, then it works fantastic. And that's what I mean when I say this author knows their audience. And that is actually from a book that wasn't super remarkable. It was funny, it was cute, but it wasn't my favorite. And it is Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. It's a contemporary romance novella, Christmas novella. Nothing to write home about, but fantastic opening line. And I can tell you in all honesty that I read the opening line and I laughed out loud and I thought I'm going to love this book. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't love the ending, that's why I don't super love it, but it was really good in its genre for what it is. And the opening quote, had me. And again, you have to remember, like, if you read enough of this genre, then you get it. So the opening line is: in an ideal world, Mark Compton would be acting like a total dick. With that single sentence, because the author knows the genre, knows the audience, knows what she's doing, with that single sentence, I, as a big romance reader, know exactly how that story is going to go, which is what one wants with romance. I immediately identify the trope. I immediately identify that what is going on is this woman loves Mark Compton, or she likes Mark Compton, and she doesn't want to like Mark Compton for whatever reason that we will find out in the story. And so, in an ideal world, he would be acting like a dick, because that would mean that she would hate him, but she doesn't. There, that you have me, I'm engaged, I want to read more, I'm laughing, it's funny. Um, that's the job of a good opening line. And then finally, I saved my favorite for last. And this one is one where I could have a lot to say, because it's from one of my favorite books, from one of my favorite series, and I love it to pieces. And I could honestly, like, pull apart the quote and tell you everything that this quote says, and like how it works, why it works. But I'm not going to do that, because the paragraph and the sentence, everything is beautiful. This is an example of fantasy with beautiful prose, with really engaging prose. It had me with a couple of lines. And if you enjoy this writing style, I feel like it will as well. So it's Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which was a reread last year. I should say also the Curse of Chalion was also a reread, and 100 Years of Solitude was also a reread. So we had three rereads in the favorite opening lines. Doesn't matter, my favorite. So the opening sentence and paragraph, I am going to read the full paragraph of Assassin's Apprentice. The only thing I'm going to give you is context. This is a book, one of these types of books where an older character is writing from memory. Every chapter starts with a section in italics that is the thing that this character is writing. This character is writing like a history of the world he lives in. The opening line and opening paragraph starts when the first section in italics suddenly stops. My pen falters, then falls from my knuckly grip, leaving a warm trail of ink across Fedren's paper. Again, I could analyze this quote and why it works and all it tells you, but I won't. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm going to keep reading the paragraph. I have spoiled another leaf of the fine stuff in what I suspect is a futile endeavor. I wonder if I can write this history, or if on every page there will be some sneaking show of a bitterness I thought long dead. I think myself cured of all spite, but when I touch pen to paper, the hurt of a boy bleeds out with the sea-spawned ink, until I suspect each carefully formed block letter scabs over some ancient scarlet wound. It's such a beautiful opening paragraph, and I love it because, as I said, fantasy and genre fiction often gets overlooked in like how beautiful it can be, how beautiful the prose can be. I feel like people who don't read the genre imagine that it's just like fast-paced quote adventures, killing, battles. But I love this type of fantasy that is slow, it's beautiful, it's intimate, it's just, yeah, slow. and beautiful. So that is the opening line of Assassin's Apprentice. And I have taken so long to film the opening lines. I didn't expect that. That I think it will be better that I make a part 2 of this video in which I share with you the epigraphs and the dedications, because one, I think that way you can more appreciate the quotes without like me overwhelming you with so many. And then also I this is the second video I filmed today. I filmed one for work before this, and I want to do these dedications and epigraphs justice because I do love them, and I do love dedications and epigraphs, as I told you in the beginning of the video. So yeah, I will stop filming for the moment, and I will leave this video here, and then next week I will share with you my favorite epigraphs and dedications. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week with part 2 of this video. This time I promise that there will be a part 2, because sometimes I do that when I promise part 2 of a video, but if I don't have it prepared, then sometimes it doesn't get here. But this one I already have prepared, like I already have the quotes and everything, so it is coming. So next week I will see you with my favorite dedications and epigraphs of 2024, and in the meantime I wish you happy reading.